Hello, my name is James Faire, and I'm here to tell you about the range that was set to combine the First Amendment with the Second Amendment. The purpose of that is the Second Amendment, under Article 1, Section 8 of our Constitution, is to call forth the militia to execute the laws of the Union, repel invasion, and suppress insurrection. The First Amendment requires teeth. You have a right to petition your government for a redress of grievance, but once the government becomes an insurrectionist itself, according to the very famous work, tyrants only are rebels because they are rebelling from the actual common law of the will and the consent of the people that actually govern the government. So we have a government now that has a monopoly on power. They have not the authority to deprive a person to petition their government for a redress of grievance, but they have the power, and they do. And that's why we saw in some of the elections free speech zones where people were locked up in cages, not permitted to leave, certainly depriving them of their freedom and their right to peaceably assemble and petition their government for redress of grievances. So the purpose of this range here was to teach the average individual the history of this country, the traditions of the American rifleman, as well as the heritage that comes from April 19th, 1775 on the Lexington Green. How there was no Marines present, there was no Navy, there was no Army. There were only militia standing there for the primary reason of protecting John Adams and Thomas Jefferson. They were coming to collect the cannon, the powder, the rifles, but they had left midnight on the 18th because Jefferson and Adams was in the Lexington Green. Those men were defending basically their own fledgling government and their right to organize and speak. And so our tradition of the American rifleman is one of tremendous sacrifice in order to never again have to go through a bloody civil war. Because at the time, we were all, in 1775, British citizens. We weren't considered really Americans, we were colonists. And the redcoats that were marching on the green, many of them were pressed into service. They were neighbors and fellow countrymen. So it would be today the same as if such a thing were to happen again, going up against a Marine Expeditionary Unit or the 82nd Airborne. It was our own troops that they had to confront. And so the idea is to get back to our heritage, put teeth in the First Amendment so we never again have to go through that kind of a conflict. With the range here, it's under the basically mandate of liberty and non-aggression. There's no injured party, and yet the county, since they couldn't shut me down any other way, is claiming that I violate certain zoning codes. The range has been here since 1964, well before the Shoreline Management Act of 1971. We've been in constant operation. We're private, we're non-profit. We are basically never more than 20 people here at a time, so we're not burdensome, and yet the county is claiming that we are a commercial, for-profit shooting event, which is not what we do here. This is about teaching the individual the skills of the marksman, along with Project Appleseed. You can learn about that at Project Appleseed, or appleseedinfo.org is the website for that. And we will teach the basic skills of the 6 steps to firing the shot, and with it the history of what made the American rifleman so effective. And with that you develop the competence in the skill, which gives you the confidence to support your First Amendment representatives, people willing to be active, to get active, and spread the tradition to others. We have the 6 steps of actually firing a shot. The seventh one is becoming personally involved in teaching others. If you don't want to shoot a rifle, you can certainly get politically active and help enforce our Bill of Rights, because we no longer have our 10 Bill of Rights anymore. We have the 12 planks of the Communist Manifesto. We have lost our right of private property. We have don't have our freedom of speech with these free speech zones, with Obama telling people to shut up and not talk. That's very articles, the amendments, the first 10, were put there to avoid misconstruction and abuse of powers. And as I said earlier, what we're seeing now in the government is an abuse of powers. They don't have the authority, but they have the power. They own the courts, they own the enforcement, which are the police, and the military that backs them up. So there is really no way to confront them, either in the courts, either in the streets, or militarily under this present system. So our main goal here is to get your First and Second Amendment rights enforced, along with the Third, Fourth, Fifth, the Sixth, the Seventh, the Eighth, the Ninth, the 10th. The Bill of Rights are necessary because those are our natural rights. They are not derived from government. They are constitutional guarantees against government infringement, and they're simply to protect the government from abusing the citizens, as the British government did in the late 1700s. And so our purpose here is to get people confident in their skills, to give them to go to that next step, because they've done surveys, and the hardest thing for people to do in America is to speak publicly. People would much rather go to war than have to get up in front of a large crowd and speak to them. And so if you can just go to your representatives and let them know that you want the Bill of Rights enforced, you want the basic thing that this country was founded upon, and that's individual freedoms and non-aggression, the very concept of liberty. Each person is protected in their own individuality, and that leaves no one behind by doing that. Everyone is protected. There is no discrimination under the Bill of Rights, properly enforced, and that's what we're about.